Get started. Well, welcome everyone who are joining us in person as well as those of us who are joining us over Zoom. Welcome to another seminar of the Geometrization of AI team at TDAI. In case you are not members of the Geometrization of AI mailing list, please feel free to join those. There is a sign-up sheet over there. If you put your email ID there, we will add you to us. We have been hosting seminars and workshops throughout the year. But today we have a special type of seminar. So we have Kristina Markel, who is joining us to tell us about funding opportunities related to AI. So she is a senior director of foundation engagement at The Ohio State University, where she leads efforts to connect faculty with strategic funding opportunities from major foundations and philanthropic organizations. So she is going to tell us about RFPs from Smith Sciences and coefficient giving, and in general, what type of opportunities are there for AI-focused research funding. So over to you. Thank you very much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you, Shubhadeep, for the invitation, and thank you all for coming and for our virtual audience. This is a great turnout. I thought maybe there'd be 2 people here, so I appreciate your time. So as our logo indicates, we are actually the Office of Corporate and Foundation Engagement. So we live partially in advancement or fundraising and partially in ERIC. So our corporate and foundation teams merged. So I'm going to focus on the foundation engagement side because that's my expertise and where I live. And my colleague Cameron Hill came with me today. Live. So those will be private philanthropic foundations. And then, of course, you can connect with me if you are looking at any corporate opportunities, and I'll connect you with my colleagues in the corporate team. So we're going to focus specifically on 2 of the big funders that focus specifically, have program areas in AI, research on AI, AI modeling and systems. There are many opportunities that incorporate AI in specific fields, like in medicine and social science, that I will not be focusing on, but I will show you a tool at the end where you can do some prospecting of your own. So this is just briefly about our team. As I mentioned, we're foundation engagement. So we do multitudes of things for the campus community. We're central service, so we work with all academic units and centers, as well as the regional campuses and the medical center. So as a director of foundation engagement, I have assigned units, and I work with the foundations that tend to work in those mission areas of those academic fields. So I support arts and sciences, which is how I got connected with this group. So I've spoken to several folks in TDAI over the years. And my colleague, Marilyn Roberts, who some of you may know, supports the College of Engineering. So you may have seen her name. She's working on a funder visit this week, so she couldn't be here, but I'm happy to connect you with her if you would like to do that. So we do prospect identification, which is kind of why you're here today, to learn about some prospects in the area of AI. We also do strategic engagement and planning, so making sure PIs are connected with the right opportunities that align with their research. And then we do proposal development as well. So in conjunction with your grants managers in unit and also your sponsored program officer who is doing more of the logistics and the budget, we really consult on, is your research, are you presenting it in a way that's aligned with the RFP and what the funder's missions are? Particularly, we help with like lay summaries because we are a lay audience. I am not an expert, I'm a humanist. So I'm looking at it as someone like, does this make sense to a general educated audience and is free of jargon and technical terms? And then we also do stewardship. Once a foundation funds Ohio State, we try to continue that relationship, not just with the PI that has been funded, but across campus with PIs doing similar research. And we host, like I said, Maryland's hosting a foundation this week. So we also help organize those. If you're having a big event that you want to invite funders to that have alignment, we can help organize that, get them in front of the right people, whether that's leadership or someone else in TDAI, academic deans, et cetera. So you may have heard of Eric Schmidt. So they started philanthropy well before 2024, but him and his wife were focused on different areas. A lot of it was kind of social services. They were doing a big raising the middle class. So they started funding programs at Ohio State related to that, like in the Glenn College and College of Social Work. And then in 2024, they started Schmidt Sciences specifically to focus on this kind of groundbreaking research, these big global themes, which we'll talk about, kind of creating these centers that are cross-disciplinary. So they're big into team science. They're funding work that the feds will not fund because of its risk level and its novelty. So, and this is common across private foundations. Some you may be familiar with, like Keck, that are really looking for really out there things that could have the possibility of failing. But like, what do we learn if the hypothesis fails? So they've been releasing RFPs really like at an accelerated rate since 2024 across their 5 programs. So these are their 5 programs that they focus on. We're going to talk today about AI and advanced computing, but they also have these other areas. I've worked with folks in the climate area, not so much the other ones yet because there haven't been as many RFPs in those. So the AI and advanced computing goals is really to advance the science of AI, to create robust, reliable, and safe AI-enabled systems, which will contribute to their broader scientific goals in climate, in science systems, in physics. And they're wanting to create these shareable models and data sets that the research community can use. And again, creating these kind of communities of practice across disciplines, across institutions. So within that AI and advanced computing, there's these areas of research. So I won't go into all of them, but you can see they're kind of diverse from social sciences to humanities to AI agents. I used AI to create this, so the first RFP, which is how I got connected to you, that I'll talk about is the science of trustworthy AI. So this is going to support technical research that improves our ability to understand, predict, and control risks from frontier AI systems while enabling their trustworthy deployment. So there's 3 aims that you can see on this, and Schmidt tends to do tiers or tracks for their funding based on the scope of work that so is it a pilot program or is it something that you already have data or models for that you're looking to scale up? So track 1 is up to $1 million, and that's going to be for 1 to 3 years. And then track 2 is up to about 5 million, but they're really looking for ambitious field-changing work at that track 2 level. So this is going to be due May 17th. So we have a little bit of time. All of Schmidt's applications are what they call lightweight. So they're not terribly onerous, especially if you're applying to a federal agency. These will look like a breeze. Some of them are about a 5-page research proposal and some questions in a form. Some of them are even briefer than that. There'll be text fields about your aims, about your team that are, character limited. For all of these RFPs, they're going to have webinars that I encourage you to attend. So there is one coming up for this RFP on April 15th, and I'll share these slides out so you have everything is hyperlinked for you to register for those. So things that will not be competitive for this RFP are tools, evaluations without a credible validity argument. Proposals describe vague methods, which I think this would apply to any proposal, to any agency or foundation. We will explore methods without any concrete activities. our baselines. And then proposals that did not clearly state what would happen if this project succeeds and what we learn if it fails. Again, they're open and looking for high risk stuff. So they want to see what is the potential even if it fails and what we would learn from that. Then there's Unconventional Compute. This is a new pilot program. So they're kind of testing the waters with this. Foundations often do this in their strategic planning. They put out RFPs for kind of ways that they're going to build up their program then and do a much larger investment. So again, with the team science, they're prioritizing applications from teams with existing hardware, preliminary data, and demonstrated capabilities where additional resources would help drive towards more ambitious work. And the core question of this RFP is there compute hardware and that can outperform GPUs in a technologically important niche? And again, there's the two tracks. Track 1 is going to be for preliminary experiments, and then track 2 is for actually implementing that work and producing evidence. This one's coming up with an April 30th deadline. And again, there's an informational webinar. So here's some in scope. I won't go too in depth with these for consideration of time, but there's areas that are considered in scope for this RFP and then out of scope. Schmidt is very good with telling you what they want and what they don't want. We have another one due April 30th, which is AI for Actionable Matter Modeling. Again, this is a pilot program that they're looking to invest heavily in based on the proposals that they receive, the ideas that they receive. So the core question here, can AI help us make predictions for matter in the regimes that actually determine technological function, defects, interfaces, disorder, and dynamics at multiple length and time scale? Again, with the two tracks, up to 500,000 for kind of pilot work and then development work. And here is the in scope and out of scope for this RFP. So yes, there's a lot of open RFPs now. AI, and one of them literally opened last week. So after I received the invitation to do this, AI Interpretability, again, a pilot program that they're looking for ideas. Can we develop I cannot say that word. It's like spectroscopy. It's like one of those words I cannot say. Methods that detect deceptive behaviors exhibited by large language models and steer their reasoning to eliminate these behaviors. This just has up to $1 million. And they're really looking at, as with any proposal, is your scope of work matching your budget? Are you, proposing a reasonable amount to do the work? There are 2 webinars coming up for this RFP. And again, the in scope and out of scope areas. This one is for my social scientist friends. It's for early career social scientists to conduct and analyze field experiments and quasi-experiments exploring the effects of AI tools on the workplace. This is actually a common theme among some funders that we work with. Russell Sage kind of has a program like this. Actually, one of the TDAI affiliates recently got a pilot grant for. So it's really the effects on the workers and how it affects, high paying jobs, career mobility, what is, deploying AI broadly across companies or fields affect workers and scientific productivity. So this is an early career opportunity for grad students, postdocs, or pre-tenure faculty. And this one, they're actually having office hours. So you can schedule those. There's only, I think, the first 2 weeks in April where there's open slots for those. So I encourage you, if you're interested in this, to sign up. The program officers will be very candid with you about whether your work is aligned and you should proceed with a proposal. So this one is a little bit unique in that is this the one? No. They have these program partners. I don't know if any of you recognize any of these folks, but they're kind of like the review committee, and we'll be deciding which expressions of interest move on to the full proposal stage and kind of leading the community of practice for this AI at work. So we've had success in this AI and advanced computing with Schmidt Sciences. We have a team of computer scientists that received the first research award from Schmidt Science in 2025. And this was in response to an RFP for Safe AI, which is now called Science of Trustworthy AI in Schmidt, which I mentioned the current RFP for that. They received $500,000 to develop a virtual environment for testing and defending computer use AI agents in adversarial settings resembling the internet and web applications. And then Sachin also got a smaller amount of money with a colleague at the University of Texas from a different RFP, Computing's Safety in the Interface Time Compute Paradigm, to advance safety and adaptability of large language models by enabling them to explicitly reason at interference time about instruction priorities, ensuring that system-level safety directives consistently override conflicting user requests. So it's basically using it as a grading tool. So now I'll go into coefficient giving. This, I don't know if anyone was familiar, they used to be called Open Philanthropy. So this is a funding group that was created by, it used to be, it basically started up by Good Ventures, which is Dustin Moskovitz of Facebook and Carrie Tuna, his spouse. So they really gave the influx of capital to start this philanthropic funder. They've given over $4 billion since 2014. So really they have these three pillars that they use to direct their funding. And then they launch what are called funds to give out that money. They're basically program areas or priorities. So they're looking for something that is important, that really has the impact. So this is like the scale. How many people is this reaching? And that doesn't literally mean citizens necessarily, but how many people in the research community? How is this going to change the field? What is the deep impact of this work? And then neglected areas, again, this is something that's common across philanthropic foundations, is they want to support work that cannot be funded by public agencies, whether it's because it's too high risk or because it's an area of research that the government is not interested in. And that is tractable, so that an influx of money for your research is going to make a huge impact, that it's really going to drive the work forward. That can mean a small investment of $50,000 may be meaningful to you, or you may need $5 million, whatever that tractable level is. So we're going to talk about one of the funds, just navigating transformative AI. So overall, this is meant to reduce the risk of global catastrophe, you know what I'm trying to say, and help society prepare for major advances in AI. So this is kind of their broader theme is this global catastrophe. So a lot of that is like medicine and preventing like warfare and catastrophic risk of disease. But then they have this bucket that's transformative AI to avoid catastrophe. So kind of preventing the misuse, I guess, of AI. So within that, larger navigating transformative AI, they have these four areas: technical AI safety, AI governance and policy, which Dennis Hirsch has applied to, like capacity building, and then new projects that are kind of undefined at this point. Currently, the only RFPs that are open are in this capacity building area. That doesn't mean they won't open RFPs in the others. It's just currently they're not open. So this one is they call them expressions of interest. They're fairly short. So once you submit that expression of interest, they'll either invite you to submit a full proposal or not. So both Schmidt Sciences and Coefficient Giving are pretty iterative. Like they'll ask you to clarify certain items in your first stage proposal in order to they want to fund. If they reach out to you, they want to fund you essentially. So they'll work with you to fine tune that proposal. So this capacity building to address risks from transformative AI. So this is really workforce development, professional development, and outreach. So they have these 4 categories. So training and mentorship, and this could be, anything from fellowships to boot camps that bring people together to share knowledge, events, groups. So it could be something like TDAI's working groups, and then resources so that, podcasts, publications, anything that disseminates about the risks from transformative AI. So they don't set a funding level for this. Again, it's commensurate with the scope of work. And if they like your work and you're proposing not enough or way too much, they will again work with you to create a more realistic budget. These applications, again, they're expressions of interest, they're short, they're due on a rolling basis. If you're interested, I say the sooner the better because they can close these at any time. And they do provide an email address for questions, although they say that if you're not sure if it's aligned, go ahead and submit anyway. We'll tell, because they are just brief, but they will answer your questions. And then career development and transition. So this is looking for folks kind of like a pivot fellowship to do work outside of their field of expertise. This could be at any career stage. So they're targeting, early, graduate students who have got their degree in one field. They give an example of a recent physics PhD who wants to spend 6 months going through self-guided machine learning curriculum and working on projects in interpretability, and in order to transition to contributing to technical research that helps mitigate risks from advanced AI systems, or a professor in machine learning, theoretical computer science, or another technical field who wants funding to take a 1-year sabbatical to explore ways to contribute to technical AI safety or AI governance. Again, no application deadline. I included a link to past recipients so you could see like the kind of pivot that they're doing. I think there was like three examples. Again, Wan Sun and Yu Su received money for 2 separate projects from an RFP on technical AI safety research, which I mentioned there's not currently an opportunity, but they're likely to roll out another one. And then Andrew Perrault received money on antisocial collusion and large language models, which I found I read his the news release and I was like, whoa, I didn't know that was a thing. So any questions about those 2 funders and opportunities before I go into a little demo? Yes.
So the first RFP that you mentioned,
Mhm.
the Science of Trustworthy AI from Schmidt Sciences. So is your sense that they're more focused on AI safety, or are they interested in broadly questions of related to understanding when AI fails and when it does not fails, or some aspects of AI training?
I think both. Yeah. Yeah. And if you go to the webinar, they will take kind of those broad questions. They won't get into, if you say, I'm doing this project that, they're going to say, well, call us or email. But yeah, I think both.
Will these slides be shared?
Yep.
Afterwards? Great.
If that's okay, if you could send them out. Yeah.
Anyone who's registered, we can give stuff.
Yeah.
I noticed links there.
Yes. Yes, that's why I included them. So yeah, I didn't hyperlink. So I hyperlinked Schmidt Sciences and the AI and advanced computing, and then to all of the webinar registrations. I didn't hyperlink each RFP, but yeah. So Scarlet and Grants is 2 years old now. Yes, we're just celebrating 2 years of this publicly accessible private funding database. So in the past, we had an Excel spreadsheet of like thousands of opportunities that we as development officers, as directors of foundation engagement, would send to units by, calling out ones that weren't applicable. It was very time consuming. It's not easy to read when you send a spreadsheet of 50 things. So we worked with Advancement IT to create the searchable database that is essentially our Excel spreadsheet, but in a user-friendly system. So we keep this up to date. It's Cameron Hill is part of his job is identifying new RFPs, new foundation. I mean, we find out about new funders. I still am surprised 8 years into this job that there's new foundations appearing. So he works on that pretty much daily, but so it's identifying new deadlines for cyclical opportunities that we know are every year or every 3 years. We were just talking about HHMI investigators, which is every 3 years, and opening new stuff, closing stuff that we know is not going to be offered again. And a lot of these represent awards over $200,000. So kind of robust funding opportunities. So I'll do a little demo here. I probably need to get out of that. I was wondering if this won't work. Slideshow, there we go. I got to reshare this guy. Okay. So this is the link takes you to this sign-in page. If you sign in here, it's not going to work. It's going to take you to some weird page about your funding history with Ohio State. So you have to go to the red login. Sorry, you have to go to this. Have I been kicked offline? No. I'm going to go. Bear with me here. I'm just going to go where I was already logged in. That should work if you log in on that bottom area. So essentially it'll take you to this homepage and you can search by career stage. So we have a lot of early career opportunities by discipline, or you could just leave it any. Status, so you can see anything that's anticipated if you're trying to plan for the next 6 months or 12 months, or anything that's open now, which means they're accepting applications and there's an RFP. So if I do machine learning, apply filter, and I have a couple opportunities that are open with the keywords machine learning. This one is a corporate opportunity. So now that we're one big team of corporate and foundation, we have been posting corporate opportunities as well. So you'll see this one has a note to contact my colleague, Ben Miller. It'll give you just a little abstract of the RFP and then take you to the funder's website. And that, I mean, it's not, the keyword search is not perfect, but it kind of gets you there. And you'll see if I did data, again, some more corporate with Pfizer. I think Schmidt should, Cisco research, which is corporate, but I know some TDI affiliates have had funding from Cisco research. It's not huge dollar amounts, but it can be a couple 100,000. So again, these are usually on a rolling basis.
Just as a,
Mm.
since it's listed there a couple of times, NVIDIA does not support research per se. They have this very fixed amount, 15K in a thing, and somebody said they still haven't figured out that they're a company that can actually support philanthropy and research.
Yeah, they give through a donor advised fund of the Silicon Valley Foundation, and so they call themselves Cisco Research, but it's
Talk about
oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, NVIDIA, there's a very specific one mechanism in a way that they support research. Because I'm seeing them listed in a couple of times. Yeah. So there's the academic grant program. That's the only program we can give.
Okay.
50K's worth of research money. What I'm not seeing there, Google just announced a big AI program.
Oh, have you
Yeah.
has anyone on the corporate team? Yeah, because I know our colleagues in the corporate engagement team are working on a big master agreement with Google. So they're kind of managing that relationship. We'll reach out to them to see if this is something we should get on Scarlet Grants for sure. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, that they've had that in the past. It's been a couple years since. Yeah.
It's bigger.
Yeah. Oh, good.
It's still big on this though, and it's from the Google.org. I mean, they're the question I have, and the reason, for example, we're not pushing for Google, because they have the same clause that killed the Bezos Earth Fund.
Oh, right.
Right. So there's these a lot of them have this, including foundations, this intellectual property, the IP agreements that don't quite align with research. The ones that are more mature, like more foundations, Schmidt, Renaissance, and the Giving Fund. I mean, they figured it out and now it kind of works. But for smaller ones, for smaller foundations, or for foundations that are not quite, used to AI interactions.
Right.
And pretty much uniformly for corporate, it's a big hiccup.
It is, and I know a little bit about your work with Marilyn on Bezos and how, I mean, that was disappointing that I think there was a promise of this big award and it did not work out that way.
It went all of it went to, in the end, to nonprofit.
Yes.
Because no university would touch it.
Yes, and yes, it can be challenging. Some private foundations are not equipped to negotiate with universities. So, I mean, we work with OSP, we do our darndest, but there are things that OSP cannot legally agree to, and that sometimes PIs will not agree to because of IP. There are instances where the Ohio State University Foundation, which is the 501c3 holder and basically gift receiving arm of the university, can negotiate terms that the university can't, but then it still needs to be managed by OSP. So it can be challenging. We've been finding this more and more with some of the tech billionaires who Pivot is a big one that, is it Mackenzie Scott or the Mackenzie Scott? They're giving to nonprofit organizations that are working in the community, and they're often not even having agreements. They're just like, here's money, and reporting is less onerous. So there is broadly across the funding landscape challenges for institutions of higher ed, but we're there to help. Hopefully we can mitigate some of those, but I know with AI it can be challenging. And then there's advanced filters too that you can, if you're looking for a specific award amount that would be helpful for your scope of work. You can manage filters. Sometimes I just go in and look to see anything that's open and kind of peruse through to see what's available, what's coming up. So these can be anything across the research enterprise. And I know my colleague Marilyn, who I mentioned before, does send things to the TDAI listserv, I think to Kathy, and then it gets distributed. So I know she sent some Schmidt ones recently. Yeah.
Quick question. So something like google.org,
Mm-hmm.
is it, because it's a foundation, so is it following the foundation side or the corporate side of things?
That's a good question. It can be tricky because it's how we count the money. So since we are a combined team, we would either work together if it's more of a scientific proposal. So we, on the foundation engagement side, have more of expertise working on, scientific proposals, research-driven proposals. It would technically count as corporate, so it might be driven by the corporate team, but really we work together. So we don't want the PIs to get, bogged down with that. It's really how it's counted in our fundraising and our numbers. And then I think that's all my slides. And then you would have my information here. As I mentioned, we all, I know there's TDI affiliates and many disciplines and many colleges, but if you want to use me as the main point of contact, I'm happy to direct you. If it's someone in arts and sciences, it would be me. Engineering, Maryland, Glenn College, my colleague Madeline, and then Brianna and Kathy do the medical center and the CCC. And this will take you can access that Scarlet Grants database as well on our website, which I hyperlinked here. If there are any opportunities that I know of that would be of interest to this research team, I would also send them out. Like I said, Schmidt Sciences is releasing RFPs at a quick pace. So any other questions? Yeah.
So if you have a proposal like submitted to one foundation and you're sort of waiting for the decision, do you need to package that same proposal for another foundation, or is that like not considered good practice?
No, it's as long as there's alignment with that other foundation. I mean, it may be crafted and presented differently, but if it's the same project, unless they specifically say you cannot, like there's some early career fellowships and things that'll say we want to be the only ones funding this work. So you have to say like who you're applying to for that same scope of work. But then again, you may or may not get, but so sometimes it's based on the funding decision. If you would happen to get both and you can't accept them both, rather have you have that problem than, yeah. And we do have a couple of these. We started this impact report last year. So this just tells you a little bit more about our office. our team is on the back, which it's mostly current. There's 2 new folks to add that'll be added this year. And we have, our top foundations last year by funding amount, and it's very diverse as far as fields, from, Gordon and Betty Moore to the American Heart Association. And a little stories, Juan's son Schmidt is in here, but then also, a humanist that got money from the Mellon Foundation. So we really do work across the continuum of disciplines. Brandon, should I take questions from? Okay. Okay. Oh, I see. Is it right? Oh, no, that was you. Okay. All right. So if there, yeah.
The different foundations work in different ways.
Yes.
And some work through relationships that cultivated over years. Others more and more so are moving very much towards, here's a call, read the call. Do not talk to us. And in fact, I don't know, at least, so in working with foundations, I've been working with foundations for over 10 years. And it seems that more and more are actually moving towards, here's the call, especially the big ones. Here's the call, read the call, do not talk to us. So one, are you noticing that? 2, how do we figure out, because for example, the call still doesn't tell you everything.
Right.
And there's a lot, even finding out about the IP, you need back channels. I mean, I have my own, and I'm figuring those out. and that's how we figured out in the end, whether things are worth or not worth applying for. But there's also other little things that are kind of not part of. We all know how an SF and an AH work.
Right.
We don't know how this foundation versus that foundation. As they're moving towards this, read the call and do not reach to us. How are you navigating this, the bits of black matter that are key to getting, especially bigger ones?
That's a good question because, I think broadly, academics are used to that model of we have relationships. I met this program officer at a conference, or I can call my NSF program officer and they'll tell me what they're looking for. And it has been more of the model to, I call them closed foundations. That's not the accurate word, but where they're we'll call you, don't call us, we'll call you. So they're program officers, that's part of their job, is to know the field, know who's publishing on what and what the trends are, and either crafting RFPs based on that or reaching out directly to PIs or institutions that they want to fund. So it's us trying to educate everyone on that is the model. But so we're in part of what Cameron does is deep dives into foundations and corporations to see if there's any connections with Ohio State. Are there alums working? So we know Gordon and Betty Moore, there's an alum that my colleagues in astronomy have a relationship with. The Koch Foundation, not that that's relevant, but it was an alum of the law school that I can call up anytime and be like, hey, So looking for those connections. Also, we maintain as a team a database of all activity that we know about from Ohio State, that whether it's someone submitted an application, someone called someone had a meeting with someone at this foundation. So we have record of all that. So we look at that. We can do a deep dive into what they've funded in the past to see if there's any trends of what they are not looking for. So to go beyond the RFP. Now, because of capacity, we can't do that. But if you're I want to apply to Hewlett, but they hardly ever release RFPs. But if it's a funder that released an RFP that you still have questions on, we will reach out to anyone we've ever talked to. They may or may not respond, but I recently reached out to someone at Carnegie Corporation that I knew in one program trying to get a connection in another program area. And sometimes that is effective, sometimes it's not. But that's part of why we're here, is to help build those relationships, whether it's, successful or not, is the, the sticking point.
There's a question.
Oh, a restriction. Oh, yes, thank you for asking. So the question is about limited submissions. So as an office, we also operate the limited submission process. So, and I should probably share this. So if a foundation has an opportunity where we can only submit 1 or 2 applications as an institution, we post it here. This is actually an old Office of Research site that includes also federal opportunities, but we do it for any private foundation or corporation that has a limited submission. So for example, the Pew Scholars in Biomedical Science, what we'll do is try to post really early, like several months before the actual sponsor deadline. So we accept applications in this portal. So you would go to the opportunity, and then we, in the last couple of years, tried to streamline it both for applicants and reviewers. So we have a fillable form that's basically a project abstract, details about your publication record, how you think your project aligns with this particular opportunity. And then, it'll go into all the details about the funding amount, how many for this particular one, we can only nominate 1 person, and then you would apply for this opportunity. And then so we may receive, it depends on the opportunity. Like for Falk last cycle, we received like 30, 20 something for 2. So we convene a committee of hopefully associate deans for research for the colleges for which we received applications. And they review it based on a rubric. We provide them with the criteria of the particular program, and they kind of rank them. And then we work with the Office of Faculty Affairs as well if there's we need a tiebreaker, if they need to weigh in. So Patrick LeShorn is involved with the process. We have a whole limited submission trainings that Cameron did that will be posted on our website as soon as it's reviewed by the accessibility folks, that goes through all the early career ones, the medicine, health sciences, and then the high risk, high reward like Falk and Keck. So, and then we notify any of the applicants of the funding decision. And if you're selected as the nominee, say for Pew, our office would then work with you to craft your proposal. So yes, that is part of our charge. Any other questions from the Zoom community? All right, well, I will stick around if anyone wants to chat. I appreciate your time and thank you for having me. And I'll say bye to my Zoom.